and welcome back to the channel. Today we are diving into the fascinating world of Python dictionaries. Now, dictionaries might seem like a walk in the park, but trust me, we have crafted a set of interview questions that will make you rethink about how well you know this fundamental data structure. Alright, so let's jump on to our first question. Write a function to find the intersection of two dictionaries, considering both keys and values, which means find the intersection of two dictionaries in the sense that you have to find the common element. Okay, you should be finding the common element. So for example, we have two dictionaries here, and you can see the common element is b:2 in both the dictionaries, and that should be the expected output. Now to solve this problem, let's start with creating a function named intersection underscore dict, which is going to take two dictionaries as the input, and we have named them as dict1 and dict2 for now. Now we are going to use a dictionary comprehension to create a new dictionary with common key value pairs. So the dictionary having intersection of both the dictionaries is something we are naming it as intersection, which is having key colon value for key value and dict1 dot items. So basically we are unwrapping dictionary one and just getting the key and value pairs. And we are checking in the if condition that form this key value pair only if key exists in second dictionary as well, and the corresponding value for that specific key should also match in both the dictionaries. In that case only, form a key value pair for the new dictionary. And finally, return this new intersection dictionary from the function. Now let's have a look at one of the example usage. So I'm initializing first dictionary with the name of dict1 equal to like A1, B2, and C3. And similarly, I'm going to initialize another dictionary dict2 equal to D2, C4, and D5. Now, to get the result, which is going to have an intersection from both the dictionaries, I'm going to call the function which we just created, and I'm going to pass both of these dictionaries which I just initialized. And after making the function call, you can see the response as result, and your final output is b:2, which can be seen here is the common element across both the dictionaries. Now, moving on to the next question. Write a function to find the maximum depth of a nested dictionary. In the given example, you can see we have almost four dictionaries kind of nested in a single big dictionary. So the expected output is going to be 4 here. Now, moving on to the solution. So let's start with creating a function named max depth nested dict, which is going to take our nested dictionary as the input. Along with that, we are kind of taking a default argument of depth equal to 1. So now let's talk about one of the default scenario that if the dictionary is empty or whatever we have received in the input is not dictionary at all, right? So that's going to be our default scenario. Now, for this one, we are going to check it in a way that if not is instance of nested dictionary, comma dict. So basically, we are checking if the input object is not dictionary or whatever the object has been sent is null, then in that case, we are just going to return the depth. So we are basically returning the default depth, which is equal to 1. Now, to find the depth in case our input is failing the if condition, then it has to be a recursive case. So basically, we are going to find the maximum depth in each nested dictionary object. So for that, we are going to do like max depth equal to depth. So we are just initializing that. Let's assume that the max depth is going to be whatever we have initialized, which is equal to 1. And then for our nested dictionary, we are going to iterate in a for loop. And then we are checking for each and every value, whether that value again in a nested dictionary is again a dictionary or not. And if yes, then what we are doing, we are again calling the same function which we have just created, and we are passing on the value, and we are kind of incrementing the value of depth by 1. And again, we are doing with checking whether the max depth is like greater than current depth or not, and basically just reassigning it back to the max depth variable by checking which value is maximum across both the variables. And finally, we are returning the max depth value. Now let's have a look at example. And let's say our nested dictionary is equal to, let me just copy paste it here. Yeah. So this is the one which we just saw in the problem statement. And then to get the result, we are just calling the function and passing it our nested dictionary. Let's print the results. And as you can see, it's going to be 4. Similarly, if I remove everything and just make a:1 and run the code, you can see the output is 1. Moving on to the next question. Write a function to invert a dictionary. So basically swap keys and values. Handling cases where multiple keys map to the same value. For example, here you can see the values for the keys A and C are same, which is equal to 1. So my expected output is going to be key equal to 1 and corresponding value is going to be A comma C because A and C both have same value as 1. So that's basically your question. Now to solve this problem, let's start with creating a function named invert underscore dict, which is going to take the dictionary as the input. So we are calling that dictionary as input underscore dict. So now let's create an empty dictionary called invert underscore dictionary. And now whatever the input we have received, we are going to iterate through the items of that specific dictionary. So we are doing that by using for key comma value in input dict dot items. And then we are simply checking if value not in inverted dict. So we are just checking if corresponding value is not present in the dictionary we just initialized. So in that case, we are going to make that value as the key of this new dictionary, and the value is going to be key from the input dictionary. And we are keeping it in a list because down the line, if the value already exists, we are going to append multiple keys. That's why we have initialized that in the form of a list. Similarly, in else case, we are checking if the value already exists, then we are going to do dot append of key. And finally, we are going to return the inverted dictionary. All right, so now let's have a look at one of the example. So we are going to have input dictionary and which we are going to pass to our function. So input dictionary is A1, B2, and C1. So now we are receiving the output by calling the invert dict function and passing in the input dictionary and just printing the result which we received from the invert dict function. And once we click on run, you can see it's 1 colon A comma C 2 and things like that. And similarly, if we do B colon 1, you can see that all the 3 keys are kind of present in the form of a list, and the key became 1 because that is constant across all the 3 items. So that's how you can solve this problem. Okay, so let's move on to the next problem. Write a function to merge multiple dictionaries into a single dictionary with the values of common keys summed up. For example, in this list of multiple dictionaries, we can see that C and D are the ones which are not getting repeated, but keys A and B are repeated, and hence in the expected output, the values of keys A and B are actually summed up. So it's basically 1 plus 5 and 2 plus 3. That's where A became 6 and B became 5. Now let's talk about the implementation of this solution. So let's start with creating a function called as merge dicts, which is going to take an object as the input. It's going to be list in the current example, and then we are initializing an empty dictionary called as result. Now what we are doing, we are iterating through all the dictionaries in the input object. And again, within that dictionary, we are again kind of iterating or unwrapping those items in the form of key and value. Now we are checking if the key and the dictionary exists in our result dictionary or not. If it does, then basically we are kind of incrementing or just adding up the current value to the existing value for the specific key. But if it doesn't exist, then what exactly we are doing is we are kind of initializing that key value pair into our result dictionary. And then finally, we are returning this specific result dictionary, which we just created in line number 2. Now let's pass in some values and call this function to just see the final output. So we are going to take input as dict equal to the same list which we just saw in the question. Now we are going to have merged underscore dict as the output, which we are going to get from the merged dict function, and we are passing in our input, which we just have defined. And then finally, we are printing the merged dictionary, which is basically your final output. As you can see, the values for keys A and B got summed up because these are present in multiple dictionaries. However, the values for the keys C and D are still as it is because they are unique. Moving on to the final question. Implement a function to flatten a nested dictionary, maintaining the original key structure as a concatenated string. So, if you look at the example in the screen, then you can see that we have a colon. Again, we have a dictionary with start having the key as B. Again, we have one more dictionary inside it, which is like C. And for in that specific dictionary, we have two key value pairs, which are like C and D. And finally, in the like the last element is again E colon 3. So basically, our expected output should be A underscore B underscore C underscore 1. Like, sorry, not underscore, it's like colon 1, because we to get the value of 1, we have to do like A of B of C. That's how you're going to get the value as 1. Similarly, to get the value of D, which is 2, you have to do something like A of B of D. That's how you're going to get the value of D equal to 2. On the other side, if you want to access the value of E, it's going to be straightforward. You can just do nested dict of E. You're going to get the value as 3. So basically, it's all about you have to kind of form the traversal path and just mention in the form of concatenated string format, like what exact path or route I have to follow to get that specific value. So that's the whole this question all about. Jumping on to the solution, let's start with creating a function called as flatten dict with concatenated keys, which is going to take my nested dictionary as the input. Along with that, we are taking a couple of keyword arguments, which is like parent key equal to, we are taking it as empty string for now. And we are also taking one of the argument as separator, which is going to be underscores. Now we are creating a empty dictionary called as flattened dict. And now we are kind of iterating through all the items we got in the nested dictionary. And now we are kind of forming a new variable which is called a new underscore key, which is equal to parent key and then separator, and then again it's going to take your key. So, and separator anyways we have initialized it as underscore. So for now we are just forming a new key variable, and this will keep on getting updated recursively. And we are forming this if parent key is not empty string, but in else case we are going to take new key equal to just the key value. That's it. Now we are checking whether the value of that specific nested dictionary item is again a dictionary or not. If yes, we are doing flatten dictionary dot update, and again we are calling the same function recursively. And here we are going to pass the value, and then we are going to pass the new key as the inputs. And here we are going to pass the separator value as well, which is going to be just the separator, like the default value. So which is underscore in this scenario. And then in the else case, what we are going to do is we are just kind of taking the flattened dictionary we have defined in line number 2, and we are doing flattened dictionary of new key equal to the value, which we are kind of iterating through in the for loop. And finally, we are going to return this newly created dictionary. Now let's try calling this function by just passing on one of the input nested dictionary. So in this specific scenario, we are going to take nested dictionary equal to the same dictionary which I just shown in the problem statement. And here it is. And then finally, we are calling our function, which we just created, and we are passing the nested dictionary as the input. And upon running the code, you can see we will get the desired output, which we just trying to solve this problem for. Similarly, if you make a small change in the input, you can see the corresponding output, which is the correct one. Here I added f:2, and you can see the change in the corresponding output. All right, that's it for this video. If you found this one helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more content like this. Until next time, happy coding.